name is John. I'm going to show you how we like to do texturing. We don't do flat surfaces on sheetrock just because it's not easy, it's not fun, and it's much more fun to completely cover stuff up and have something artistic. So you're going to need multiple tools to do this. You're going to need I guess this is a 6-inch taping knife, a 12-inch taping knife, and this thing, I'm not sure what that is, a trowel, I guess, and then your mud pan. Now, the mud is typically not as loose as this. A little bit stiffer is better, but you get what you get. That's just kind of the way it is sometimes when you mix too much. Typically, you take a box of mud and mix it with 1 pint of water. This is a little bit looser because the mud has been sitting for, I don't know, a couple of years. And so there was a little bit of mold in it. And I skimmed off what mold I could, and then I added bleach. And so things are a little bit looser than they should be, but it'll work. And so we'll just kind of do it in the field here. You want to do all your taping first before you try to do your texturing. Otherwise, if you try to texture immediately after you tape, then the tape's going to pop off, and that's a bad day. And so we'll just do a little bit in the field here so you can see what it's supposed to look like as far as how we put it up. So we like to do it in strips, top to bottom, bottom to top, whatever. And then as you're going across, you blend each strip into the next strip so it looks like it was all done at the same time. And so you take it and you're just doing kind of a layer, not a huge amount, I mean maybe 1/8 of an inch or something is going on there. And the point is not to really load the wall with mud, but more to just get a layer on there that you can work with. You see some stucco patterns like are in the other rooms, and they use a ton of mud and they're super thick, and it's not really ideal. I'm not trying to make it look like a Mexican restaurant. We're just trying to make it look less like it's got sheetrock with seams. One of the things that you will observe as you're putting the mud on is it'll begin to dry in places, and so as you pop it out, which is going to be the next step, then you want to kind of move the wet mud into the dry mud and just kind of move it around so it looks generally uniform. And we're looking for good coverage. It doesn't necessarily need to be 100% coverage because you're going to be moving the mud around with your other trowel. Need a little bit more mud in the pan. Put a little here in the middle where it's dried a bit. Now you take this trowel and you just press it gently into the mud and you pop it out. Doesn't have to go in super deep, just enough to cause little amounts of mud to come out. And you sometimes have to go kind of back over it just to make it look more or less uniform. The parts that dry out, you have to move the wet parts into. And you want to press this evenly into the mud to avoid leaving lines. A little screw hole needs to fill. You also want to do relatively small strips, because if you do large strips, then it'll begin to dry on you before you really have a chance to work it.
So you're gonna have to fill the mud into the screw holes, like little spots.
Yeah, well, that's the challenge of doing the texture.
Just
Now,
get a little dobs here and there, pop into the screw holes.
so then
Good?
you take your 12-inch taping knife, and if you look down the blade, every taping knife has a little bit of a curve to it. You can't probably see it in the
Barely
camera,
see it.
but just by being here, I can look at it and say that the curve goes that way. And so you want your taping knife, the curved side, to be going into the mud that way, because if you do it like this, you end up with lines.
Okay.
And so you just set it up here and just kind of lay it against the sheetrock. You're not really pressing it, you're letting the weight of the taping knife do the knocking down of the mud. Same sort of thing going up. It becomes necessary to go up just because you can't get your wrist to bend the way that you'd like it to at the bottom.
And so when he does it again, he's being careful of his right corner not digging into the mud where he's already knocked it down.
And try to, where you have them, where you're combining going down with going up, make a point of stopping at slightly different places when you're coming up. That way you don't end up with a line all the way across the bottom. And likewise all across the top if you end up going kind of back and forth with it. But it's relatively simple, you know. It's not going to be perfect, but that's not the point of perfection. The point is to distract from the imperfections in the walls with a texture finish.
And it looks really cool like bark when it's done correctly and it gets painted. Right now I'm in my own shadow, but it really has a really cool shape that I like. Well, it's awesome, Daddy. Good job. I hope you guys have a blessed day.
And clean your tools as you go. Otherwise, again,
You get chunkies too.
Yeah.
I've done that before where I've done a lot of mud and a lot of mud. And then what ends up happening is I end up getting like little hard chunks in there. And then when I pull it down, it like creates a gouge all the way down. So clean tools and a little bit thicker consistency of the mud will really help. It won't fly onto the floor as much. Have a blessed day.
Good.
Yeah.